Hey everyone, Sparrow here, and welcome back to True North Sanctuary, where we are starting the Arctic Zone. That's right, welcome to the Arctic Zone. As you probably saw, I have blocked out the habitats in this section with some squares and rectangles to make sure that animals have more than enough room, and also to help keep my sanity, because staring at a blank screen with no planning or prep is just not for me. But speaking of planning and prep, today's video might be a little more chaotic because I'm not really using a script this time around. It's just been such a hectic week, but I was so determined to put out an episode this weekend that this was the fastest way to do it. Didn't want to go 2 weeks without TNS, but more on that later. Let's talk about the habitat. So this habitat only took me about 6 hours, and that's probably due to the aforementioned hectic week. So here is the concept behind it. Generally in places like Banff or Jasper, you'll see these land bridges that go over the highway so that wildlife don't get hit by vehicles. So the idea here was to have a land bridge over the guest pathway so that the wolves kind of have two sections to their habitat. They have a public, more open to viewing areas portion, and then if they cross that land bridge to the other side, they have a more private, secluded backstage area where staff can monitor them if needed. So that's kind of the concept behind this build. For this, I needed a few different kinds of fences. So this is the first one, the wire fence, and that's going to go basically all the way around the habitat. There are going to be quite a few places with rocks, but you will also see a fence for the backstage and a viewing area fence. So those will be coming up right away. As I'm doing this barrier, you probably saw a circular little building over to the side of the habitat, and that is going to be another aviary. So yes, I was talking about how I have really been enjoying building aviaries. So I have quite a few planned for the Arctic zone, and that is one of the few. I did not include the build in this video because I would like to do more of like a compilation video of all of the aviaries that I have planned for this zone. So that will be one of them. And then on the other side of this bridge, there's that really long rectangle that's kind of subdivided into sections. That will also be a massive aviary. So stay tuned for that video. That will happen eventually, hopefully. I would like to finish TNS before Christmas, but we'll see how that goes. So anyway, here you just saw me building that one backstage fence with the fabric on it, and then we also have the viewing area fence over here with the glass. And of course, we also have to put up a bunch of rocks around this bridge to make it meld into the environment a little bit better so that it doesn't just stand out like a sore thumb. It was not looking great at first, but I find that's usually how it goes. You like have an idea, fully formed picture in my head, and then I put it in PlanetZoo and I'm like, what is this? This is not working. And then the more time you spend on it, obviously the better it gets. So the more rocks there are, I find, the better it looks. Unfortunately, because that takes a really long time. So here is the habitat with the finish of rocks, and we are going to add some foliage. So I decided that I'm going to use mostly taiga and tundra foliage for this because that's the biome that Arctic wolves live in. But obviously couldn't do away with my true love nettles and bracken and brambles, just kind of fill out the palette in here. So those will be going in shortly, but always do kind of a quick layer of buffalo grass, as you see here, sink it into the terrain, and then same thing with the aquatic rocks. Usually quick layer of that, and then throw all of the other foliage on top. Also going to use reindeer moss or caribou moss. I don't remember what it's called in game, but anyway, this plant, because it is a staple of taiga and tundra habitats, and we haven't really used it in very many places other than the reindeer paddock, mostly because it's not the greatest model, if I'm being honest. It's definitely not my favorite plant to use. I'm not sure I love the color of it, but, well, gotta use it for the realism, I guess. So yeah, here is the bracken that is definitely not a tiger or tundra plant, and the brambles, and then we'll be putting in some nettles as well. So, excuse me, while I finish up the foliage here, some life updates. It's been so chaotic, so chaotic. Starting a new job and just battling with HR to get everything set up. I am not having the best time with that, if I'm being honest. Usually not the biggest fan of change as a person, so a little bit anxiety inducing to be doing all of this at once, and then also trying to get YouTube videos out and just like generally trying to get my life together, all that jazz. It's hard. Like, I do not like adulting, but you know, it's fine. We'll get there. So I am very glad that I was able to get this video out for everyone today. Alright, on to the backstage. So we have the yellow safety line. I'm just using the 1 meter gutter to measure the distance from the walls. And that's just to make sure that the zookeepers keep a safe distance from the animals, because they will bite you, so we don't want that. The wall decor, I just decided to use this corrugated iron panel and kind of put it all the way around the inside and later the outside of the building as well. I felt that united everything a little bit better. Keeping to the TNS teals as well, which I haven't been using as much lately, but I feel like they're great for the Arctic zone. I'm also going to show you guys a bunch of backstage stuff today. So that was me filling the fridge with some meat. The meat is actually the faux rocks recolored red, if you ever want to try that trick. I'm putting down a bunch of junk and clutter. I don't normally show this on camera, but I don't know. This was one of the things I spent the most time on this time around for whatever reason. It was kind of meditative, just like throwing random things onto these shelves. As you can see, I kind of have a palette of things down on the floor here so that I can just quickly pick it up and put it where I want it. Yeah, I've been using mostly this same clutter in every backstage area. The foxes, the timber wolves, the Arctic wolves now. Usually just a collection of crates, boxes, I don't know, the sack, I guess. Some workshop items in here too. But yeah, it was quite fun. The one other thing that I always forget to put in backstages is things from the habitat menu. So things like water dishes or the enrichment items that the animals use. Those are all very good things to add as clutter to your backstage areas as well. Or like that block of ice in the fridge, because why not? Yeah, and then yeah, the beach ball in here. You know, things that will probably get used around the Arctic wolf habitat eventually. And then we're just gonna add some drains to the floor, because I did also put hoses in here. I don't know if they're on camera right now, but they will be there later. And one final detail was this, I don't even know what to call this. These cables and switches that help to open and close the doors for the wolves. It's been a while since I did little detail work like that as well. For someone who doesn't do really well with roofs, this one came together very nicely and quickly. But to be fair, I did this build in like short bursts over a few days. And this last part, the roof, I had been thinking about for a solid day probably. So I already had everything mapped out in my head, and it was just a matter of finding the pieces to make it work. I knew I wanted natural light, so those windows there, and then I was just gonna do glass all the way around, but that didn't really make sense. Like realistically, you wouldn't have that. So I decided to make these corners out of plaster because it's one of the smaller pieces we have, and then I just recolored them to the same teal because continuity. Why not? Yeah, and then just on top of this, there's another layer of the roof, and then we're going to throw some eaves on the ends, and then it'll be done. So yeah, I was really proud of how quickly this one came together. That never happens for me. And some decals. I have been not doing this for very many builds recently. I used to just plaster decals all over the place, and by plaster I mean not really, not compared to a lot of other builders. Like, there are builders out there who make things look so realistic with the amount of decals that they put on everything. Like, it looks so weathered and so real, and that is definitely not me. Like, I have not even been using them recently, but this time I remembered. So we'll definitely have to go back to a lot of the other buildings to make sure that that happens. Some last detail work before we start on our tour. It took me so long to find this piece, the finials, I think they're called, the brass finials. I, for some reason, thought they were in the Twilight pack, but turns out they're in the Europe pack. So if you're ever looking for that item, that's where you will find them. It took me so long to find it. And then we're going to put down some rocks around the edge of this ugly path, just to hide it a little bit. And on top of those rocks, there will be another barrier so that our guests do not push their fingers through the wire fence and get bitten by the wolves. Okay, here we go. So we are at the first viewing area. We can see our Arctic wolves walking around in there. They're so cute. Their names are Blanche and Andre. So Blanche because white in French is blanc, so kind of close. And then Andre is apparently an Old Norse word for snowshoe, and I thought that was kind of cool. So those are our wolves. Over on this side, that's the Boreal Cafe from last time. And then over here we have our aviary with nothing in it just yet, but maybe soon. So as we walk over here, we get a great view of basically the whole habitat. Yeah, obviously can't see over the bridge, but close enough. You can see the bridge, and that's kind of the point of this habitat. Over here we just have the view through the mesh, so not as great of a view, but still pretty decent. I'm also very surprised with how smooth the camera is right now, so hopefully I didn't just jinx that, but oh, yep, might have jinxed it. Maybe it was just a spot with less pieces. And then over here we have our next viewing area. So I built sort of a cave for them to come rest in. It's a little bit more private, but guests can get an up-close and personal view of the wolves here as well. I also have some statues up there. I rounded the corner and kind of got freaked out by that wolf up there. So don't know if that was the best idea, but let's head over to the backstage. We have a piece of fabric that's coming off the fence here. We can peek through, see if any of the wolves are in here. Doesn't look like it. But here is the backstage area for the Arctic wolves. So I need to do a lot of TLC around the general area, but as we walk in, we have our kennels on the left, and then on the right we have our clutter bulletin board. There is a hose on the wall. I did put it in. Some lights. Here's all of our junk. And then we also have some tools and such. And then over here is the in-game doorway into the habitat so that zookeepers have access. Yeah. This one turned out really nice. Especially for how slapped together it felt. So let's find our way back out. And we are going to walk underneath the bridge. Hopefully one of the wolves is up there, but if not, I will insert a video of when they are up there. Here is the walkway. These are screens, so there will be sort of, on the left I want welcome to the Arctic zone. And then on the other side, I think maybe just like glaciers or something that really makes you feel chilly as you enter the Arctic zone. And here we are walking up to the Beaver Lodge and the moose and beaver habitat. So that is how all of this connects to that area. There will be another connecting path coming from the Boreal Cafe Plaza and just heading over on that side of the habitat, but for now there isn't, because I just haven't gotten around to it, and I have other plans for that area as well, and I don't want to have to rush everything. So this big box that you're seeing in front of you here is eventually going to be that big aviary I was talking about as well. And what I really love about how I designed the Arctic wolf habitat is that sometimes you can just make out the Arctic wolves by this fence, so you can kind of see them over the aviaries, which I think will be a really cool view once all of that is done. And of course, I would also love to take you over the bridge. So here we are in front of the keeper door. This is the more private area of the habitat. And then as we come up here, we get to cross the bridge as if we were a wolf. So down there is our cave viewing area. Over there is the beaver lodge. And here we are crossing this land bridge. As always, here is the sanctuary before, and here it is after today's additions. But we do have one more update, and that is our Timber Wolf pup. She has been named Onyx, as voted by the majority of you in my community tab. Isn't she just the cutest little thing? Since this video was slightly different than normal, do let me know in the comments what you thought of this style. Leave a like, subscribe, it really does help me keep the channel going, and just know that I'm doing a good job, something that people enjoy and want to watch. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next time. Bye!